God is not a he. I don't suppose God is a she either. I think God is beautifully non-binary, and that should give us hope. As I grew up, I did feel, even when I went to primary school, that when I pitched up, somehow I was just more one of the girls than one of the boys, and I didn't have a word for it, and I didn't think it was going to be that big in my life. But as the years went by, it got bigger rather than smaller. This was the 60s and then the 70s, and there weren't any trans people really around. I remember Caroline Cossey, who was a Bond girl, being outed in one of the newspapers, and I think that was the first time I'd ever seen anyone in public who'd made a gender change. And I don't even think the word trans was probably around then, but it was never really about the labels. It was more about like how I felt as me in the world. That's what I was searching for, I think. You might be forgiven for thinking that Christianity is desperately straight and doing anything queer is like a terrible sin. But what I found out by talking to people and reading books and going on retreat was that Christianity is a lot more queer than some people might think. I remember going on retreat and speaking to the retreat warden, and he didn't know anything about transgender people. And he was lovely, and he said, I know nothing about this, but it strikes me that what you are is God's gift to you, and what you become is your gift to God. And I just thought, wow, what an amazing thing to say. I mean, what he was saying is, don't be frivolous about this, but if this really is you, go on and be the person you're supposed to be, because in that way you will honour what God has made. I would say that God, somewhere within the heart of God, is not just a he. God is beyond gender anyway. And I'd like to think that all possibilities, all our notions of gender are somehow subsumed there and held in God. God is not a he. I don't suppose God is a she either. I think God is beautifully non-binary, and that should give us hope. I was ordained in the summer of 2004, and I settled into parish life, and it was great. I was really busy. I was in a market town. Everybody knew me. I'm pretty visible, by what I wear. It's not like a city. As you wander around, even in a grocery shop, people know that you're a minister. And I settled down. It was really lovely. And then early in 2005, I got a phone call, which I always knew might come, from a journalist saying they'd been tipped off. They had my old details, lots of stuff about me, and was this true? I mean, they knew it was true, but they had to put it to me. And of course, they wanted to do a story. I knew that the following week, every single person, 10,000 people in that market town, would know my intimate medical history. It was very worrying though when the stories dropped. A few people crossed over the road. One or two people, you could tell they just didn't know how to react. And a couple of people came out of shops just to say, hi, how are you? And I think people were having to think very quickly. I mean, these were people who'd never thought about sexuality or gender changes or what a particular minister might have in their history. And all of a sudden they were having to deal with it. And they had other things to do. So everybody was processing. I think the other thing is, most queer people will know it's exhausting at times just being queer in a straight world. Even if everything's good, it just is very tiring. And when our energy gets low, when our batteries get low, things can get a bit emotional. And I think it's really important for us all to say this. I have been there. I have cried. I have phoned the Samaritans once or twice in my life, because sometimes we all get low. At the end of 2018, I moved from a market town with a couple of villages, which was great, into Cardiff city centre. And I really felt called to city centre ministry. And of course, Cardiff, it's a multicultural, diverse city. And my church, St. John's, it's right in the centre of Cardiff. And it's really nice that we can say to people who are questioning their identity sexually or gender-wise, you are welcome here. You're not just tolerated or accepted. Those are not the words. You are celebrated just like we'd celebrate anybody else. One of the great things has been the support of most of the LGB community. It really has been so good to have things like, LGB with the T, and various other people, Stonewall, Attitude magazines, various people just say, no, look, we're not going to buy into perhaps a bit of misinformation or almost hysteria about trans people. So I'd just ask everyone to keep doing what they're doing, really. You need to tell people we're just normal people, when there isn't an agenda, we're not out to do anything but just be ourselves, like every straight and queer person on this planet. As a woman, I understand the importance of a woman's space and safe space. I think there's a lot of people with genuine concerns, but I think the problem is they're somewhat concerned with a straw man. I think most of them might change their mind if they knew more trans people, but ultimately they have their opinion, that's fine. But I think the silent majority need to be heard. That's the important thing. To get an award from Attitude magazine and the wider LGBT community, it's kind of just so far outside what I ever thought. I can barely believe that I'm that close to something with an A on it just here. So I'm thrilled. I've been thrilled for a week and a bit since I knew I was coming down here. So thank you all for this. It means an awful lot to me, because I'm passionate about my calling, but I'm also passionate about the queer community. So thank you so much for this. What I would like to put over is Christianity is not as homophobic and it's not as straight-centered as people might think. There are all sorts of queer things in the Bible. There are all sorts of queer things in the stories about Jesus and in the prophets and woven into Christianity, and we miss them. And I'd really just like to think that all those people out there who've been told that they're not good enough for God, who God might not love them or they're going to hell, I really just want you to know that you are loved. You are known by God and made by God. And even if there isn't a God, which obviously I think there is, you are welcome in more churches than you would dare to think. So I'd like to think that this is great for me, but I'd really hope that someone out there might just think, do you know what? Christianity isn't against me, because no one needs another enemy. And everyone out there who reads Attitude or who struggles with their sexuality or is happy with their sexuality, you're glorious. So let's get on and be glorious. And God does not hate you.